Letitia James is kind of freaking out. Letitia James is hitting the panic button because Trump is ignoring her demands. Now, this is very interesting. She's been filing motion after motion. He just ignores them because, you know, he's like, I control the purse strings right now and I'm cutting off funding to you guys because you guys aren't playing ball. I mean, this is amazing to me. So Pam Bondi, who, as we began the show with, I told you is not messing around, said, I'm cutting off Letitia's funding. She's not going to have any more money. In fact, all the sanctuary states that are providing shelter and, you know, ease of living, if you would, to illegals, you're not getting anything anymore. I'm just cutting it off. And so Letitia flipped out. She filed one motion and she actually got a temporary order where the judge said, okay, you know, you probably can't pause funding just yet. And Trump ignored it. He absolutely ignored it. And now she's filing a second motion because she has no money. So this is the new one, okay? In response to this continued non-compliance, Attorney General James, alongside her coalition, filed a second motion for enforcement yesterday in the U.S. District Court for the District of Rhode Island. They're seeking a court order that would force the Trump administration to release the funds or provide proof that they have ended the freeze. And he's like, yeah, whatever, no. Not doing it. And so consequently, one Letitia James is now out of cash. She has no more money to pursue these various efforts against him. Because don't forget, a lot of this money was actually being used to, well, I mean, it should be going to FEMA, this, that, and the other. And so she's like, hey, this is our money. It was approved by Congress, and we want it. We want to make sure that we're getting it. And he hasn't turned the spigot back on. So again, she's filing these motions. Now, you might ask, does she have any chance in HELL right now? And I would say no. Because you know what's going to happen? It's going to have to go through the court system. And so this is a case of Letitia getting a little bit of her own medicine. I mean, Letitia put him through his paces. Do you think for 2 seconds that she had a case against him? Vis-a-vis, you know, you can't overinflate your valuation of Mar-a-Lago. You think it's worth this? I think it's worth only $18 million, despite the fact that it actually made $56 million in 1 year. She thinks it's worth $18 million. Now we know why she's a lawyer from a 2-bit law school, acting like a politician in New York instead of actually a success in her life. Oh, I could get harsh. I could get really harsh. Really harsh, but I won't. I'll let her do the work for me. Just take a look back. You know Letitia James.
We heard from Donald Trump in our case against him, other defendants, and the Trump organization. He rambled, he hurled insults, but we expected that. At the end of the day, the documentary evidence demonstrated that, in fact, he falsely inflated his assets to basically enrich himself and his family. He continued to persistently engage in fraud. The numbers don't lie. And
no, but you do, Letitia, you do. And you know what? You're running out of options here because Trump is not playing ball with you. And he's turned off the money spigot. And now you're going to have to go through all these court filings. And you know what? Judges are very reluctant to actually try and stop the power of the presidency. They figure that's Congress's job. And Congress is not going to do it because they're not going to impeach him. He's got Congress. I mean, look, he got Tulsi, he got Cash, he got Pete. He got everybody he wanted, RFK Jr. So he's got Congress. So you don't have any real options here, Letitia. You're standing there in the way of the federal government trying to police its borders. The one thing that the federal government for sure can actually do, and you're trying to prevent that. So you know what? Two can play this game. We know what you did. We know the legal tricks that you played. We know, Letitia James, that you only went after him for political reasons because it was expedient for you. Right? All right, let's roll this tape.
he's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, we know he's crazy. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. We know he's out of control. We know he's losing it. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
That one took the cake, right? Well, you know what? DEI is over. Everybody's getting rid of it. Goldman Sachs just got rid of it. Disney just got rid of it. Letitia James, that little narrative that you were spouting, that it doesn't fly anymore. Too male, too pale, too stale. Come on. Well, here's the deal. She's now running out of cash, so she's filing this motion. But her challenge is that it's going to take a long time to get through the courts. It's going to take a long time to get to the Supreme Court if that's where it's going. And so in the meantime, time is on his side. And he can do a lot. Now, you may not like it. I mean, a lot of us didn't like, remember, the student loan forgiveness that was completely unconstitutional that Joe Biden engaged in. But these things take a little bit of time in the system. And Leticia, you should know this better than anyone, because Letitia James is the one who filed that crazy lawsuit against Donald Trump and tried to actually bankrupt him so that she could prevent him from running for office. Well, I think she actually helped hand him the election. I mean, they kept doing that. When you come forward and you say, I am going to charge you it was nearly $500 million in your bail bond. And if you don't have the money, we're going to go and confiscate your assets. If we have to go to Trump Tower and stand there and take over Trump Tower, we'll do it. I mean, people are looking at this and they're like, you are crazy, lady. You're really, really crazy. Because that was a bank that did a transaction with Donald Trump, and it was a private transaction that had no bearing on the rest of the public. Therefore, Letitia James, as Attorney General, never even should have been diving into that. She was just wasting everybody's time, as the judges in the appeals court have already told her. And by the way, I'm a little annoyed at that appeals court because we're still waiting on them. Hello. Where is that decision? I think that they're just kind of hedging a little bit because they don't want World War III with Leticia and company, but they're going to get it. They're going to get it if they don't do the right thing, because it is so obvious, and then you're going to have that thing escalate. But in the meantime, you know what? New York is up a creek without a paddle because they have a group of lawmakers there that are not following the rules. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, tell it to the hand. Tell it to the hand. Leticia, tell it to the hand. I'm taking your money. I'm not giving you a dime. And two can play this game. You originated it. And now he's in charge. So tough luck, Connie, baby, right? Remember to subscribe, share, like. Don't forget, by the way, look at this. 1 year anniversary. Woohoo! All right? Like, I'm so excited. I'm so proud of us, what we've done there. You can get all of these names. Go to 76research.com, 76portfolios.com. Get the 76 newsletter at 76report.com. Use code word $. Okay, Donald Trump is going to be addressing the nation tonight, and I'm really excited for this. I'm actually going to be back on with you for analysis immediately following this address. This is a big deal. So it is his first address. For those of you that aren't familiar with the terminology, they call it a joint address to Congress because, you see, he's only been in office a little over a month, and so they don't call it a State of the Union. So the sort of precedent is to always refer to this one. It's basically a State of the Union, except that he's only been there for a month and change. So he's going to give you an update on what he's doing for this first month, and the expectation is that he's going to talk a lot about tariffs. He's going to talk about the border. He's going to talk about the economy vis-a-vis inflation and maybe some of his plans. He's going to talk about DOGE and cutting spending. All of these things are super popular, and he's going to talk about women's sports as well. And that's what I've heard. We also know that some of Melania's guests, let me see if I can bring you this list of them. You can see that she's got the Compratore family. Of course, that was horrible. I mean, remember what happened to that gentleman. That was just taking us back in history to a really, really horrific time, but it's a time that we should never forget. You have some other people, for example, Elliston Berry from Alito, Texas. She's a 15-year-old girl who was the victim of a computer-generated deep fake created by a bully at her school. And so she's going to be there with Melania Trump tonight. You have Jeff Donard from Alabama, nearly 3 decades working at a steel plant. And he had this good paying job, and then he lost it. And so we're gonna talk about, I imagine, some of these working class issues that are so important to Donald Trump. You've got the NYPD officer, remember, Jonathan Diller, who had been murdered at the traffic stop by a repeat criminal. So this is just an example. There's some others as well here. I mean, it gives you sort of some insight into the themes that I expect that you're going to see throughout the evening. And I get at sort of the migration thing. I get at what we're seeing vis-a-vis jobs. We're going to get at what's happened with women in sports and declaring male and female genders. These are going to be some of the hot button issues tonight. And Democrats don't want it. They are just, turning up their nose at all of this. But I would remind them of this. Again, I go back to the new poll that just came out today, Harvard-Harris Democrat poll, showing 52% of people approve of Donald Trump. 58% say he's doing a better job than Joe Biden. I mean, this is amazing, guys, right? So, when the Democrats say that they're against everything that he is standing for, I just got to tell you, they are so far away from reality. And that failure to recognize reality is kind of come back and bite them in the you-know-what, big time. Because this is a president for the people, and it's resonating with the people. And that's all you need to know, right? I mean, if you are not on the side of the people, you are on the side of what? Big corporations? You're on the side of yourself? The Democrat Party has just really and truly lost their way. I've never seen anything entirely like it. I just haven't.